You had me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Playing the cello has so many pluses. It never grows old.
Hello, everybody. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday. Almost time to practice all weekend long. But first things first, Cello Chat. This month, we're sponsored by Taft Violins in Madison, Wisconsin. I've taken my instruments to Nat Taft many times and always been very happy. Check them out at taftviolins.com. My guest today is Fermin Segarra of Puerto Rico. Fermin, how are you doing?
I am doing great. It's great to be here with you, Ben.
Excellent. It's great to talk to you again. And now for our audience members who aren't maybe as familiar yet with your playing and your work, can you tell a bit about your musical background?
Okay, let's go for it. I started playing cello when I was 12. And by happenstance, my interest in music came by chance because nobody in my family was a musician or had anything to do with classical music. So I remember I found an old accordion in a closet and I started picking tunes out on it. And then this was when I was in sixth grade. And then they announced entry exams for the Escuela Libre de Música, the Free School of Music in San Juan, which has a full academic and musical program. So I took the exam and passed the exam. So once you start at the school, they had a sort of introductory week where they would show you all the instruments and you would get to choose what instrument you wanted. So originally I said I wanted the viola, believe it or not. And since I was a taller kid, they said, well, you're a tall guy, maybe you should pick up the cello. I said, yeah, but I want the viola. I would say, well, you could probably take it on later on. But it never happened. I stuck to the cello. So I did my high school, junior high and high school there. And then when I went to college, I went to DePaul University. It's backwards here, but it's in Greencastle, Indiana. That's where I did my bachelor's with Castle Grub. And then from there, I went to the University of Illinois, where I did my master's. There I studied with Ko Iwasaki and Lori Loughlin. And then after I graduated from there, I came back to Puerto Rico. Auditioned for the Symphony, got in, but there was some budget cuts. I don't know what happened. They didn't hire me then. So I took off and spent 2 years in Texas working on my doctorate there with Paul Olevsky. And I didn't finish my doctorate because there was an opening for cello teacher at my former high school. And so I completed the circle and came back here to Puerto Rico and started teaching at my former high school. And it's a great program there because students all receive private lessons, studies in solfege and music theory, and ensembles. So that was way back in 1985. And I was there for 31 years. In 1999, I started conducting the school orchestra there. And when I first took the orchestra, it was like a 45-piece orchestra, which most kids really didn't want to be there. So I had to rebuild. And the first 2 years was really tough. I was more of a drill sergeant than orchestra teacher, just because trying to get the kids to understand the discipline of playing in an orchestra and the fact that the orchestra is the best and most complete musical ensemble that humanity has ever invented. And at that time at the school, the choir was a big deal. Everybody wanted to be in the choir. The choir traveled and everything. And So I started building, and I started traveling with the orchestra. I traveled like 3 times. The most, the best experience was when we went to Carnegie Hall in 2011 for a competition there, and the orchestra won a gold medal for their performance there. So it was a very nice thing. And as I said, I was there for 31 years. And for a stint, I also taught at the conservatory prep school and at the conservatory as interim cello professor. And throughout the years, several of my students have ended up in the Puerto Rico Symphony and other places around the world. So it's a great experience there. I still play. I retired in 2016 from the school. I still play with the Puerto Rico Symphony. So.
Excellent, outstanding. Well, I have some follow-up questions there.
Okay.
What was it that drew you to the viola? Was it the timbre of it? It's very distinctive in the string family. Or was it all those fascinating inner voice lines that they get to play, or something else?
Well, actually, at that point, I really didn't know anything about music. So I think I was just more impressed with the demonstration that the viola teacher gave.
Awesome.
I don't know if you know about the Figueroa family from Puerto Rico. It's kind of a musical dynasty here. And the first generation, they had a quintet. Everybody played something in the family. And but they all studied in Paris during the early 20th century. So, you know, Boulanger was there, and they got to see everybody that was there. And even one of them even won the Sarasate violin competition. And they all could have had great careers out of Puerto Rico, but they all decided to come to Puerto Rico and give back to the island. So, and they have right now their children, which are now my age or older. Guillermo Figueroa, he was son of the violist in the Figueroa family. He is now the conductor of the Santa Fe Orchestra. He teaches at Lynn in Florida. His two cousins, Narciso and Rafael, play in the Metropolitan Opera. And his sister is coordinator for the music program at the University of Puerto Rico. So, and Guillermo's father, who was also called Guillermo, who was a viola, he was a very talented musician. He played the viola, but he could play the violin. He could play any instrument you put in his hand. So the demonstration he gave of the viola that day, I was very impressed with. So, but then his brother, Rafael, who was my teacher, was also just a great musician and super fun to study with. I remember when we would be doing maybe a Schroeder study or something like that. He would sit at the piano and improvise accompaniment, so he made it a lot more interesting.
Sure.
To do.
Excellent. Well, I remember this gold medal winning school orchestra that you directed, how motivated they were. They were very, I mean, the energy was really palpable. And since the main theme of this series is inspiration and motivation, I mean, of course, we know that our classes, our students vary from year to year. They're going to kind of somewhat no matter what we do. But
right.
There has to be also a lot that you are doing from the podium to set an example of that level of enthusiasm about music and about making music. What's part of your philosophy for inspiring your students to really be just go all out for music?
Well, I'm a little bit different. You know, in the States and in most school systems, you have to have your weekly plans and everything, and you have to do a lot of paperwork to get things done. Well, I didn't do any of that. I tried to teach them what it's really like to be in an orchestra, and the discipline. Sorry, this is the garbage truck. It's coming through. I don't know if you can hear the beeps and stuff. So I started from there. First, when I first got the orchestra, I tried to teach them the discipline of being part of such a large group. Starting off by being on time, and that if you're on time, you're already late. you gotta be there at least 5 to 10 minutes beforehand. And I would explain to them. I tried to have them relate to what it is to be a professional musician. So I would explain to them what was expected of me as a musician in the symphony, as far as being prepared, being on time, and making music. And then a lot of it has to do with repertoire you choose. And I always tried to pick stuff. I would always try to find something that would be fun for them. One piece at least that would be fun for them. And then I would always have the piece I picked some aspect that I wanted to work on with the kids. For example, if I picked a slow piece, that was to work on tone production and getting them to get the best tone. If I picked a technical piece, then we would focus on that. But I remember when I first started with the orchestra at my high school orchestra, it would take me a week to read one simple arrangement. And by the end of my tenure there, and we were doing original compositions for orchestra, and we even had several pieces commissioned for our orchestra, including an opera for children and maybe 3 pieces by the Morales brothers and sisters. I don't know do you know Jesus Morales?
Yes.
Okay, well, his sister Sonia is a composer, and his sister Mariano is also a composer. So they composed pieces for the orchestra, which were really excellent pieces for high school. And so by the end of my tenure, we were able to read a piece in one rehearsal, just get through it. And so that was a lot of fun. And throughout the years, I remember I told you that I was more of a drill sergeant when I first started. And so the kids started seeing, and the school started seeing the results, and then they wanted to be in the orchestra. And they would come to me and say, Maestro, I want to audition for the orchestra next year. And then as people started coming through, the kids that were there the year before starting putting them in place. So I had to do less and less of a drill sergeant, and I got to be more and more of a teacher and a mentor for them.
I like it. That's excellent. Now, and then as far as you also teach cello privately, and you've worked with the El Sistema program there in Puerto Rico. What do you do on those days, whether in the orchestra that you conducted or El Sistema or your private students? What do you do in those cases where a particular student maybe is just having a day in which they're not very motivated, or a week or a semester? What are some of your go-tos to re-inspire, reignite their love for music?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me that, because a couple of weeks ago, one of my students came in and she couldn't do anything in her lesson. And I didn't get mad. I thought maybe something's going on. So I asked her, are you okay? Is something going on in your life? Do you feel stressed? And then she confessed to me, yes, I feel stressed. I feel a lot of pressure at home and at school and everything. And and throughout my career, that happened several times with several students. I stopped the lesson there and I said, okay, you need to talk to your mom, and you need to either uh, be sincere with her on how you're feeling and get help. Because if you're not in a good place, you're not going to be able to have a good lesson. So she went off and talked to her mom, and they took her to the psychologist, and they're working things out. So sometimes it can be something like that. So you never know. So you have to be aware, and now there's so much emphasis put on instant gratification that it's very hard to get students motivated because, as you know, it rarely comes in in music. There's no such thing as instant gratification in music. You got to work to get something done, and most of the time you're never really happy with it because you can always find something. So it's harder to get people motivated now, and what works for one kid, it doesn't work for the other. And now, half of my students, I have about six, and half of them are adults that have taken up the cello. So one of them is a doctor. I say he's my best student because he's the one that practiced the most. He calls me his therapist because he works hard. He's a gastroenterologist, so that's an intense job.
Yes.
And he says, well, I'm his therapist, and he loves taking cello because he gets away from everything else. And I have another lady, a mom that her kids have all taken music, and she decided she wanted to play the cello. So she called me, and she's taking cello. So it's a different situation now. So, but it's fun also. And as far as the sistema is concerned, well, I've done a couple of workshops. A friend of mine that teaches there asked me if I would do a workshop on vibrato. And vibrato is a tricky thing to teach. And throughout my career at the school, I would actually wait until they started showing signs of being practicing it at home, but not really wanting to do it. And so I would see what they would do. And if it was working fine, I wouldn't do anything about it. Because the most important thing about developing a good vibrato is you have to have a very good position to begin with and a very relaxed left hand. So, but anyway, I did that workshop. I took a lot of tricks from when I was at Texas. I studied string pedagogy with Phyllis Young. So, she literally had a bag of tricks when she would go do workshops. Did you ever do any workshops with her?
Oh, yeah. I studied with her for several years.
Okay. So you know what it was like. So I worked. I did a lot of her tricks. I did the matchbox with the rice in it, and
I love that.
And the thing of doing the vibrato on the top of the cello without even pressing the string, and they get a kick out of stuff like that. A lot of stuff that I do also is imagery, trying to get something that they can relate to. I remember a long time ago. Remember how barbers used to have the little leather strap to sharpen the knife? When I first started, I would use that to image doing staccato bows.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting that stroke in. So, and then when the people no longer remembered what that was for, then I would start thinking, okay, you got to imagine yourself, you're shining a little shoe with a shoe brush. And then nobody shines their shoes anymore because everybody wears. But you gotta keep on updating everything.
That's funny. That's funny. Yes. The idea, for example, of when adults come to music, and that can keep, they can be very motivated to practice. And what you're talking about as far as not necessarily getting instant gratification off of everything, I think there is a degree to which several of the people I've interviewed in this series will have like the slow burn sort of inspiration, where you're interested in a lot of things in life, and then they all feed into the way that you play music. I mean, for you, it's
Right.
For example, just the beauty of Puerto Rico or cycling. It doesn't immediately have a one-to-one connection with what you're doing in music at the time, but it's all kind of just a broader passion for life, and then your passion for music is just a byproduct of that, or something along those lines.
Yes, exactly. The other thing is that my philosophy at the high school, even though it was a school for the performing arts, a very low percentage of those students actually go into music. But you do prepare them to be the audience for the future.
No.
So another thing that I had my kids do in the orchestra was that they would at least have to go to one live performance, symphony performance in the semester, at least one. Because no matter how much I try, you could try to explain something like that to somebody, you don't know what it is until you live through it. So a lot of them started just going to one, and then you continue to see them throughout the years at the symphony.
Yeah. It's I mean, I know there are people who don't routinely go to live arts events in their lives. I'm sure they're perfectly happy people, but I feel sorry for them, because once you find out how much that can add, it's live performance is a blessing.
Yes, it is. It is. And I have a son who plays the violin. He plays in the symphony, and I've done a lot of performances with him, including doing stuff. There was a club here for his generation. It was called El Local, and during Hurricane Maria, that place turned into a hub for people to go receive help and performances just to uplift people. And we did a few performances there also for kids that had never seen classical music, and we would play maybe a Beethoven quartet, but then we do stuff of popular music also, just so people could see that it's not all classical. You can do all sorts of stuff with that. So it's really neat to reach that kind of audience.
Outstanding. Well, Fermin, what are some upcoming projects or performances?
Okay, well, this week the symphony. We're on Halloween week. It's next Sunday, and we're doing a Halloween themed concert. We will be performing the soundtrack to the Frankenstein movie. I believe it's the one where I don't remember which year. Maybe the Bela Lugosi one. So those are the top selling concerts when we do movie stuff. But the film will be projected on stage while we perform the music to it. So we've done that before with we did it with Charlie Chaplin movie. We did it with I think we did it with Lawrence of Arabia at one time.
Huh.
And so it's a crowd pleaser to do something like that.
All right.
And also I have a possible. We're trying to work out chamber music performance with my son. There's two possibilities. One is for our local production company called Croarte, which gives chamber music concerts and soloist concerts. And he's planning something with a friend where she's a pianist, where they'll both perform solo pieces. And then they'll perform something together in the second half. And they want to end with an arrangement of Oblivion for piano trio. So I might be participating in that. And we're also trying to set up a performance for the Mahler piano quartet.
Excellent, excellent. I did, when I was at UT, I did get to do some chamber music with Paul Olewski. And he really had that passion for music, channeling the drama of the music and chamber music. And it's funny, and when you plug into that real-time interaction with the other players, then of course that's the way that you ideally play in a symphony as well.
Exactly. It's a communication you have to have. When you're playing in a large group, it's very difficult to play together. And there's certain passages, no matter if you're listening, you're most likely going to be late because the reaction time between what you hear and what you do, there's always a delay. So in certain passages where I want to make sure I'm with the violins, I will be watching the concertmaster's bow and trying to keep up visually with what he's doing. Otherwise, it's very difficult to play together.
Yeah, true. Well, thanks so much for your time and your thoughts, Fermin. This has been a lot of fun and very inspiring. Oh, and it's
been great, Ben.
Always great to talk with you.
Well, it's been great. I hope you come back to the island soon.
There's no place more beautiful. And the people are so warm. I can't get over how just warm and friendly the people there were either.
Yeah, so we hope you come back. So it'll be fun. I can set up whatever you want.
All right, excellent. Well, and you got to Chicago not long ago to do some cycling.
Yes, this summer I went on vacation. First I went up to Michigan, Interlochen. I have friends there. I stayed with them. And I rented a bike up there and went up from Traverse City to Sutton's Bay on bike. That was fun. And then my oldest son lives in Chicago. He's studying sound production.
All right.
So that's what used to be called being a recording engineer. Now it's a little bit more elaborate. There's a lot more stuff. He's living in Chicago. He's doing a program that Berkeley has online, and he ends up with a Bachelor's of Arts, and it's all online, and it's working out really, really great for him. So I visited him, and then I rented a bike, and we went biking on Lakeshore Drive, which is an excellent route to do also.
Terrific. All right. Well, till next time. I look forward to whenever our paths cross again next as well.
Okay. Take care.
Right. And thank you, audience. We'll see you next Friday at 5 o'clock. Happy practicing in the meantime.
Bye-bye.